Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's webinar on Mailroom. It's ManageCasa's newest feature that allows you to centralize all your communications in one place. Just some quick housekeeping before we get started. The participants' lines will be muted, but you can ask questions in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we'll answer them at the end of the demo. Don't worry about anything you might have missed because the recording will be on YouTube as well as our Help Center. And for now, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So we're going to go over the importance of communication, the obligation that board members and community associations, as well as property owners have, common communication challenges, how Managed Casa's Mailroom solves these challenges, the cost of communications, some new features for Mailroom, as well as a live demo of Mailroom. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So every day, you're probably sending dozens of communications, from invoices to statements to violation notices. And it's absolutely essential that residents actually receive and understand these communications. You wouldn't want someone missing an invoice, for example, or claiming they never received it. It's also a struggle to stay on top of all these different communications, especially if they go back a very long time. HOA board members and community associations have a more specific formalized responsibilities with communication. There's often rules in the governing documents as well as state law about how communication has to be handled. For example, in California, the Davis-Sterling Act requires individual delivery, meaning that if residents aren't opted in to the resident portal or online messages, then you're required to send them USPS mail for key announcements or invoices. Board members have a fiduciary duty, meaning they can't rely on private emails or phone calls or casual conversations. They're held to a higher standard. So how often do HOA boards need to actually communicate with owners and update them? The short answer is all the time, on an ongoing basis. The longer answer is a strictly regulated periodic schedule. There are yearly, annual communications like your budget, your reserve funding, your insurance summaries. And while these are only once a year, they require a lot of planning. You're not going to send them the day before they're due, and they have firm deadlines. Then there's communication around meetings. Generally, it's best practice to send meeting agendas, usually 2 to 5 days roughly before a meeting. And there's meeting minutes after as well. And then there's more ad hoc communications, things like special assessments, invoices, proposed rule changes. And while these aren't necessarily on a firm schedule, if anything, they're even more important to get out because it's very easy for residents to miss these communications. So in short, you're communicating on an ongoing basis, basically throughout the entire year. There are some communications that happen yearly, but they require plenty of preparation and they have very firm deadlines. There's meeting communications, before a meeting and after a meeting. And then there's more ad hoc communications like special assessments, invoices, and these are especially important to make sure that residents actually receive. Lastly, keep in mind that across the industry, only about 40% of residents, actually use the resident portal, right? So the question is, how are you reaching the 60% that aren't even on the resident portal? And that's where Managed Casa's Mailroom comes in. Managed Casa's Mailroom solves these problems by centralizing all your communications in one place. The process is very simple. You create a communication. You can use a reusable template or just quickly send a PDF like an invoice or a statement. You can select recipients, exclude certain recipients, select certain associations, remove certain associations, then choose a delivery method across multiple mediums, meaning you can send via email, USPS real mail, a message in the portal, or local print, or even all of the above if you wanted. And then you can track every communication. That way you know the residents actually received what you sent them. So we hear this all the time that my my community just isn't very tech savvy. They aren't going to use the portal. They might not even check email very often. Um, and the solution to this is that you need both paper and digital mail. One is not enough. We mentioned that there's compliance reasons behind this, like the Sterling Davis Act, but it also has to do with resident preferences. Some residents really love to use the portal. They're on there all the time. Others may never log into the portal ever. Some use email, some prefer paper. And even if one resident has a firm preference for a certain type of media, if you send in multiple types of media, that increases the chances of them actually receiving and understanding the message, right? Like, let's say I check email all the time. Well, if I happen to miss email, if I get the statement in paper as well as through the portal, I'm more likely to actually read that. And Mailroom allows you to combine all these different mediums of communication. So you can send email, in-app messages, or printed mail. With Mailroom, paper mail is at the press of a button. So rather than having to print letters yourself or fold and stuff letters into envelopes or stamping and mailing yourself, Mailroom does it all for you. All you do is compose a message and click send, and you will have a printed mail sent for you with confirmed tracking. It's also pretty significantly less expensive. So keep in mind with mail you're doing yourself, you're stuffing envelopes yourself, you're probably writing addresses yourself. It's a lengthy process. You're probably going to spend at least an hour doing the work behind DIY mail, but it's also pricier. So real mail clocks in at about 95 cents, while DIY mail is about $1.03. So not only are you saving time, but you're saving a pretty substantial amount of money as well. Okay, so when you get into Mailroom, the first thing you're going to notice is the communication center. And this is where all your messages are centralized. Now, there are a few cool new features for users. First, now you can send anything you want. So instead of having to compose a special template to send a simple PDF or statement, you can just quickly send a statement, invoice, any PDF you want without a template, just to get it out the door really fast. There's also a complete history of all your communications ever that is easily searchable. So there's no need to dig through folders or dig through old communication histories via email. Everything you need, all your communications are centralized here in the communication center. You also have the ability to schedule messages in advance now. So let's say you're working on the weekends or maybe you're working across time zones. You can schedule messages before you send them so they arrive at the perfect time. This also helps increase open rates too, because like let's say you're sending at a time in the evening, residents are much less likely to actually open those messages compared to ones you schedule for early morning. You can also preview messages to see exactly how they appear to residents. And like I mentioned before, all this is very easily searchable. So you can filter by status, delivery method, creator, date, just making it very easy to find communications. Templates have also been revamped to be reusable. Now, instead of creating a new template for every message you send, you can build reusable communication templates. This should save you hours throughout the week or month. For example, let's say you're sending a financial statement. Rather than sending the same financial statement and composing a new template each time, you can simply have customizable fields. That way you can simply plug in the key information and reuse it again and again. This also allows you to have much more customizable branding. Let's say you're managing multiple associations. Well, you might have a certain header and a footer or a signature for one association that matches that association, and you can have a completely different template for another. It just allows branding to be much more consistent. You can also archive templates now. So if there's a template you don't use very often, you can save it without necessarily deleting it. Recipient management is also much more intelligent now. First, duplicates will be automatically removed. That way, nobody receives the same email twice. You can also easily exclude recipients before sending. The preview system allows you to see exactly who is going to receive the communication, as well as what it actually looks like from their perspective. That way you can make sure the right messages reach the right audience. And I mentioned templates before, but it's also really important for recipients. Let's say you're sending to multiple associations, you can make sure that a certain template is customized for a certain recipient. That way each association or each community or even each person receives a template that is customized to them. So in short, before Mailroom, you might have been working across multiple tools. You might have been relying on email. You might have been digging through files to find old messages. You might have even lost some messages. You might have had to build an entire template just to send a simple invoice or PDF. You didn't really know whether your messages or mail was received. You had no confirmation that the residents actually read and understood what you sent them. Um, and you might have been a bit disorganized in your communication. After Mailroom, you have a complete history of everything you've said. That way you can simply search and find any message you may be searching for. You don't have to worry about duplicate entries. You don't have to worry about residents receiving the same message twice, and you can confirm that they actually received what you sent them via tracking. Now I'd love to turn it over to Zach and Rod, who can give you a live demo of Mailroom in action.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach. I'm your customer success manager here at ManageCasa. I have along with me Rod, who's our product specialist. We're going to go ahead and walk you through RealMail, where it is, and how to send out those communications. So we've added it to the left panel. right under communications. It's also still under more features in case you need to access it there. So first you'll see the Insights tab, which is going to show you some graphics on send by type, your monthly costs if using RealMail, sends by also a chart for sends by delivery type. Next, in the Communications tab, as Patrick was showing you, you have a list of all your recent communications, easily searchable and using filters to find those important communications. Also on here, on the right-hand side, it'll show you the status of those communications. So if it's scheduled for a later date, if it's a draft that you're working on still, you can also, with those drafts, preview what you are working on. You can also preview just by the certain person. If you're using a template that adds in resident details, it'll show you right there on the preview. Also here you have the estimated cost if using RealMail. So it'll show you how much each communication cost you. It'll also show you that on the Insights tab. And then on the left under recipients, it'll show you all the recipients who have received the communication, as well as showing you who needs attention, meaning somebody who may have not had an email address, a physical address, or anything like that. But from that tab, if you're still in a draft, you can actually go in and update that contact there. And then let's go ahead and create a communication. So you just hit the plus communication, and then right here, you just put in a title. And if using a specific grouping, you might want to put that in the title so it's easily searchable in the communications tab. Under type, you can use template. You can also just load a PDF that you have. We're going to go ahead and do a board meeting notification, something that you definitely want to send out via RealMail so that all of your residents are receiving it, not just the ones who are registered. Now we're going to go ahead and add your audience who's going to be receiving the communication. So you just hit the plus add recipients button there. And then you can see that right now it's set to 0 recipients. You can either include or exclude. But of course, we're going to go ahead and include first. And you can search via associations, properties, contacts, either way. And we'll go ahead and use associations. You can use filters or pick manually. We'll go ahead and pick manually. If you have multiple associations or buildings, you're able to pick those there as well. So you don't have to send it to all. You can send it to just a few of them or however that works. You're going to go ahead and save group. And then you'll see that the recipients is updated to 30 recipients. Now, if there's some people that you don't want to include because of, missed payments or any other reason, you click that exclude button and then go ahead and pick which recipients, just like we did last time. So we'll pick manually, and you can go ahead and exclude whoever you'd like to from the communication and then save group. You can choose only to send once to people and only send one per property. And now you've seen that the estimated attendance with those exclusions has gone down to 24. So on this next page, you can add an attachment, you can include an invoice, whatever you'd like, or you can just leave it as is. And now you're moving on to setting up the mailing. So how would you like to send it? As Patrick was saying, for those important, annual financial statements, budgetary updates, anything that you're required to get in the hands of people physically, we have set it up as a default to RealMail so that it's easier for you. As you can see with the recipients, the updated cost for RealMail is right there under estimated cost at $21.85. As Patrick said, it's 95 cents for the first page, 20 cents per page thereafter. So if you were going to send real mail, you can go ahead and click I understand. This will be charged to my account. Or if you'd like to send it in multiple different methods, ensuring that each of your residents is getting this communication, you can choose as many or as little as you'd like. Obviously, we would like to include real mail just because you know that it's getting to those residents. And for some of those very important financial details, you definitely want to get it into their hands. And I know that a lot of you in different states have different regulations as far as that goes. Um, for the sake of this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and print locally so we can go all the way through. Also, we want to be able to schedule it, so you can go ahead and pick a future date in order to schedule your delivery. So let's go ahead and send it out tomorrow. The send time is always set to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and so forth. And then you're going to go ahead and save. Now you're going to see a summary of everything that you have selected. So you'll see the recipient number, the attachments, the mailing that you're sending. If you're sending real mail, email, whatever it may be, it'll show you there. And then you're going to schedule your communication. Now, as you can see, that communication has been added to your communications tab. If you send it immediately, it'll still be there as well. But when you schedule it, you have the ability to go ahead and ensure that everything is correct, ensure that you have everything as you'd like it. It's just important, make sure that you do your edits before that send out time on that date. Okay, and for the other tabs, you have templates. So these are all of your pre-filled templates. And if you'd like any help with templates in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or myself personally. But we have a ton of pre-filled templates that'll automatically add in your resident details. And then you have layout components. So headers, footers, anything like that that you'd like to further customize your communications. Also, we have included archived templates. So if you have just a bunch of templates that you're not using anymore or you'd like to save for a later time, you can go ahead and archive them to be in this section. Yep. And under the communications tab again, you can see how it was sent, also underneath the title there. And yeah, I think that pretty much does it. One place, one section to do all of your communications, ensuring that all of your residents are getting these perfectly.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you for
Zach.
joining. Yeah.
I'd love to just have a few minutes for Q&A. If you all have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll answer them for you. I'll just give you a couple seconds to get your last questions in before I start reading some off. Okay, so can you explain tracking? How exactly do I confirm if a resident received a message?
Well, as I showed you before, you'll see needs attention. So if there's any missing details on a resident that they would not receive those communications. As far as mailing, it's going out to every address that you have verified on the mailings. So you will receive it just like you would if you handed it in to the USPS post office by yourself.
Great. And this is a really good question is, can custom groups of recipients be created in advance?
So yes, definitely. We also have drafts that you can see there. So when you go in and you create that group using the including and excluding as I showed you before, you can go ahead and set that as a draft. You'll see a button on the bottom of the communication so that you can just leave that communication and then go back into it. Also, after you sent that, as I mentioned before, make sure you title your communications by the groups. That way you can go back to it at any time and you can just edit that already sent communication, change up the attachments and send it to that exact same group.
And a quick follow-up on that question is, can people be excluded from the list based on a custom field on the contact record?
Not via custom fields as we have them in the contact record. You would have to have a list of those people that you wanted to exclude in order to exclude them based on that. That is a nice feature request if we're able to do that based on a number of different preset settings. So thank you.
And just two more here for you, Zach. For common notice templates, how much do I actually have to fill out myself? How much is pre-filled?
Um, different templates are going to have a different amount of details already pre-filled for you. The cool thing about templates is that it has automatically fillable spaces for like resident name, amount owed, things of that nature. So really, there are some, if they fit your needs, you won't have to fill out anything. But again, if you have just, I mean, really, if you had a handwritten note that you wanted to send somebody, you could just set it to a PDF and you could attach that. So, I mean, there's really just endless options with what you can send and how you can send it.
Another great question, this goes back to what we are talking about with so many users, residents not being on the portals, is will we be able to send to unregistered owners?
Um, Absolutely. For unregistered owners, or residents, you would just want to send it via real mail. I mean, that way you can ensure that they're going to get it. You can also send that via email. But as we all know, it's not very often that you're opening all of your emails. I know when I receive a document from my HOA, I open the envelope to see what it is. Not so much with emails. So yeah, you can send it via real mail or email. The only restriction you have for unregistered users is you can't send a ManageCasa message.
Great. I think this is the last question, unless anyone else has any more questions. Can you break down the price that I see? Is that just the price of real mail? I think
The
there's talking
price
about
that
the
you
total price.
Yeah, the price that you see would just be real mail. That's the only pricing that there is. This mailroom section is available to everyone regardless of their subscription with Managed Casa. Yeah, the only cost is the cost of sending those uh, communications via real mail.
Great. Well, I think that, oh, sorry, one more question. Um, we have residents that prefer not to receive communications via email. How do we flag those people so they are automatically excluded from the communications without identifying them individually at the time of the communication?
Okay, well, I think that people who prefer not to be included in email communications, I mean, we don't really have a way to look through the actual sending of the document at those people. I mean, I would see that most communities that we see, those who do not prefer email just don't have an email address. But it's up to you on how you would like to manage that. Yeah, so I'm not really sure how you can do that through the actual sending of the communication, but you could use your contacts list over there on the left-hand side to see who may have those notes on their account.
Awesome. And just four more good questions for you here, Zach.
Sure.
First, can I also send my invoice statements with Mailroom?
Absolutely, that's a great point. Something I forgot to point out. If you're sending invoices through our accounting module and not through this mailroom, they'll still show up under your communications tab. So you can make sure that everyone received them. And of course, with the invoices, you can send those via real mail as well. There's functionality under the accounting module to do that. And you'll see the results of it, right there in the communications tab.
Great.
Yep.
And are you notified if a communication is not received by the recipient?
Um, We don't really see any reason why it wouldn't be received outside of if it's missing those details. So any email that's entered in there, if it's the correct email, it's going to get to that person. Same goes with address. You would um, trust the USPS in your post office to get it to that address, and that's exactly what we're doing. We work through your most local post office. So we're working with those directly in relation to your location. So it's definitely getting there if the correct address is entered.
Great. And then actually a few more is how do you send individual documents such as statements to a group?
Yeah, I mean, statements, all those other inclusive things like templates, PDFs, and all that. If you just want to send one invoice, one statement, or anything like that to a group of people, you can just do that here.
Cool. This one is a bit more specific, but I think still relevant to the group is
Sure.
when creating a template, is there going to be more fields available? Like when are there going to be more fields on a template? I know engineering is looking into working one out, and that is true. But like when are more fields coming? Can you just go through some of the fields on these templates, Zach, if you have a minute?
Yeah, we're constantly adding new templates to this for both rental and association. You can also go into some of the templates under layout components and you can edit. So you can add those automatic fields. You can edit the messages that's actually being sent. So there's a lot of customization available. As you can see on the right there, those are those automatic fields that are going to pull directly from your contact list. And then you can even go into the text here and change up the text if you'd like.
Yeah, I think they were talking about the specific fields that are customizable, but yeah, we add plenty more, and I think there is one custom one in progress. Just one more question is, Zach, can you show us what happens if the email isn't delivered?
In regards to that one, if the email isn't delivered, you're going to be receiving an email notification on your end that the email has bounced. So if the email is no longer active, then you can just check your inbox that this email has bounced. And in terms of the notification for real mail, if it is not delivered by the USPS, if the address needs correction, you'll also be able to be notified by the real mail that it needs attention under this one. So, for example, they already have an address available, but it bounced. So USPS sent back the real mail. You will have the option here that real mail has failed. So you can just edit the address itself and then resend it.
And when real mail fails or an email bounces, who gets that confirmation that it failed or bounced? It's the sender, right?
Correct. It's going to be the sender, and in this case, it's going to be me since I sent out the communication.
Great. Well, I think that answers pretty much all the questions. Just one last chance to get your questions in. Going once. Okay, we have one more question. This doesn't show the delivery status, but the communication that is sent shows delivery status. That's my understanding. So I think
Correct.
that's a follow-up.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can see down there, there's sent, there's scheduled, there's drafts. Um, so you can see that it was sent. And again, those updated costs will change and show the cost if you did send it via real mail.
Okay, I think that's all the questions. Thanks so much for attending, everyone, and good luck using Mailroom.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.